Advisory Committee, City of Lowell, for our regular meeting on Monday, August 8th, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sue, roll call, please.
Commissioner Cadwalder.
Here.
Commissioner Chambers.
Here.
Commissioner Ellis.
Here.
Commissioner Schraven. Here. And Commissioners Plank and Gadula are both absent, and Chair Barker.
Here. Do I hear a motion to excuse the two absent members?
So moved.
I'll support.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. They stand approved. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda?
I'll make the motion.
And second?
I'll second.
And discussion? Sue, roll call, please.
Commissioner Cadwalder.
Yes.
Commissioner Chambers.
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis.
Yes.
Commissioner Schraven. Yes. And Chair Barker.
Yes. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the previous meetings, June 13th, 2022, our regular meeting?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
And support?
I can support.
Discussion? Sue?
Commissioner Cadwalder.
Yes.
Commissioner Chambers.
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis.
Yes.
Commissioner Schraven.
Yes.
And Chair Barker.
Yes. Are there any public comments and communications concerning items not on the agenda? Yes, sirs. One at a time, please. Give us your name and address.
Sue, is Andy on now?
Yes, he is. He's on Zoom.
Okay, good. There. Okay, because this kind of pertains to him for what they want to ask a question.
Okay, yes.
My name is Bill Skur, 538 Flat River Drive. I'm just over the line in Virgins Township. And my question for the Planning Commission is we would like to identify what parts of Scout Park are included in the park and what parcels or sections are not. We would like to get a clear, defined boundary there. I think it's something that the city's going to need to know clearly before they move forward with any changes in the master plan. And maybe they already have those answers, but it just doesn't seem clear to us. Bruce and I spoke with some of the city council members on Saturday. We did have an opportunity to speak with Marty, so maybe Marty can address this a little bit as well. So that's mainly my goal here tonight, is to make a clear distinction, and I don't know if Williams and Works is going to be here. We're hoping they should shed some light on that subject as well.
Bill, as far as Williams and Works go, Andy is on Zoom, so we'll be able to ask that question of him too.
Okay.
Generally we take the questions and then we try to get the answers if we don't immediately know them.
Okay.
Is this gentleman, or do you want to refer to the same subject? Or
Speak the same thing, sure.
Okay. Do you want to speak or
Or not necessarily. I mean,
Okay, same question. Okay.
Same question.
All right.
Then
let's, thanks, Bill. I think we understand it.
Yeah, so what they have is, I believe you have 5 plot numbers,
Yeah, we do have those.
and it's not really
Sure.
clear to what part of the plot numbers go to that section of the property of the Boy Scout cabin.
what numbers are on
There's
that?
24 acres?
There's 24 acres in the entire parcel, and there's 5 sub-parcels, each with their own property, permanent parcel number. So it's an odd piece, difficult to understand, but that's why we were looking for some clarity on that. So hopefully Andy can help us out with that.
Yeah, 'cause if he was here, he could explain it
Yeah.
probably better than he was.
Sue, can we ask Andy?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's
Andy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. We got to ask about the Scout Park and its 5 parcels, and which are part of the Scout property and which are not or maybe not.
Scout Park versus simply city property.
Okay, Scout Park versus city property.
So I'm not sure specifically which parcels are included in the park itself. If we look at like the county GIS, for example, there are 5 parcels there that kind of show up as being city-owned property. They all have different addresses, they all have different parcel IDs. As far as which ones specifically are included within what we would call the park boundary, I have to take a more detailed look at that to figure it out. I mean, we know generally where it is, but there's a bunch of parcels that are owned by the city on at the north end of Washington there. And one of them has a house on it, I believe. 2 of them I actually have a house on them, or a building of some sort, but to say specifically where the exact park boundaries are, I'd have to double check. I'm not positive at this point.
Okay, thank you. Bill, make sure you give us your phone number so that Sue can contact you or Andy can contact you.
Would you like me to do that right now?
Sure, why not? Let's put it on record.
Okay. My email is just billskur@gmail.com. Last name spelled S-C-H-R-E-U-R. And my telephone number is 616-897-5928. And I did shoot an email over to Williams and Works this morning, but I think it went to the wrong person. I was told by the receptionist I need to contact this person, but it was not anymore, so.
More than one person there, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm sure Andy will get back to you and try to give you the heads up. And Andy, would you make sure you CC Mike Burns and the city council as well?
Yep, absolutely. If he wants to send me an email, my email address is just my last name, Moore, M-O-O-R-E, @williams-works.com. So I didn't see anything this morning on that, but I'd be happy to respond if he wants to resend it.
Good, thank you. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more public comments and communications concerning items not on the agenda? Thank you, sir. Sirs. There is no old business. New business is a public hearing for the C1 Neighborhood Business District rezoning. And that is proposal to rezone 815 West Main Street, 807 West Main Street, and 803 West Main Street from C3 General Business to C1 Neighborhood Business. Before I forget, I will open up the public hearing. We will go through our normal process, and public will have a chance to make comments as we get into it. So, thank you again, gentlemen. Andy, would you lead us off on it?
Yes. If you recall, about 2 years ago, we did something very similar to this, where there were 4 residential properties with frontage on Main Street, which is about 2 blocks up the road from here. And the issue in that location was that there were these people who owned single-family properties. They were zoned C3. So in the C3 district, single-family residential dwellings are not permitted. And so because these people had their houses there, the uses were non-conforming. It was difficult for them to make improvements to their property. It was difficult, if not impossible, for them to sell their property because, mortgage companies didn't want to, finance a mortgage on something that was not non-conforming. So it's causing a bunch of problems for those property owners. This is pretty much the exact same situation. So what we did a couple of years ago is we did 2 things. The first thing that we did was that we amended one of the city's zoning districts, which was C1 Neighborhood Business. We amended that district to include single-family residences as a permitted use by right. And then the second thing that we did is that we rezoned those 4 parcels to C1 Neighborhood Business. And we did that because the master plan calls out these and other properties along Main Street as commercial, commercial parcels on the future land use map. And so this was a way, this was a way for them to, those parcels to, bring them into conformance, so that if, say, one of the houses is burned down or something happened and they had to tear it down, they would be able to rebuild a house on that property. But it still left the option open for them to convert to commercial uses at some point in the future. This is quite literally the exact same situation. So in this case, the owner of 815 West Main Street, which is the one that's kind of in the middle of this block. So this person approached the city a little while ago asking, with the same problem, asking, if there's anything that could be done. This was the route that we suggested. Then upon looking at it, it made sense to us to also then expand this request to include the two properties directly to the east of 815, which are 807 and 803, because they're also in the exact same situation. So that's why we are here tonight, is to entertain rezoning these parcels to C1. It is a slight, I guess I would say, decrease in land use intensity or zoning intensity. The C1 district does not allow quite as much as the C3 district does, but it does bring these properties into compliance, yet still leaves the door open for commercial development on these properties. There's not any commercial development that I'm aware of that's pending or that's going to be coming out. At this point in time, this is just something that the city can do to bring these properties into compliance. It'll make the lives of those property owners a little bit easier moving forward. They can make improvements to their property, they can sell them, they can build additions, expand the building if they need to, and so on and so forth. Are there any questions in terms of background at this point? And if not, we will walk through the three standards we have in our zoning ordinance to consider.
Any questions, commissioners? No? Okay.
Okay. So when we look at rezoning requests, the city's zoning ordinance outlines three standards that we need to walk through. First one is if the proposed amendment is consistent with the master plan or if conditions have changed significantly since that time. In this case, this is something that we feel is consistent with the master plan. The plan does highlight these properties as areas that are intended for commercial uses, and so this still allows for compliance with the master plan by allowing commercial uses on these properties, but it also brings them into compliance by also allowing residential uses on these properties. The second standard is if the zoning amendment is compatible with existing or future uses in the vicinity. And in this case, in the vicinity, you have pretty much commercial uses on most sides. So there's a commercial business to the east, there's a commercial business to the west, there's a commercial business to the south, and then to the north or behind these properties is a manufactured housing community. So these properties have all been used as residences for quite some time. The area in which it's located has changed a little bit, primarily due to the activity of Benton Baker next door to the east. But overall, we feel that what's being done here, what's being proposed to be zoned these to C1 would be consistent with existing and future uses in the vicinity again, because it allows for it still allows for some change to commercial uses in the future, which is what the plan is after. Third standard is whether or not the site is capable of accommodating all uses allowed by the zoning change. Again, in this case, we feel like it is. These parcels are well served by public infrastructure, including water, sewer, street lights, etc. These aren't parcels that are big enough for any sort of large-scale commercial development, so we're not going to see like a big giant retailer come in here because these are just fairly small parcels. But if anything, because we're sort of rezoning these to a more, restrictive and kind of lesser intense zoning district. I think this is actually, would make potential uses on the site more compatible as opposed to less compatible. So I think this is a step in the right direction. Those are the only three standards we have. We did recommend, the Planning Commission recommend approval of this to council because this is a rezoning request. This is something where the Planning Commission does not make the final decision, that you will be making a recommendation one way or the other to City Council for their decision at the next meeting. And then also, this was noticed for public hearing, of course, as you know, Mr. Chairman, so we'll be happy to listen to any public comment on the topic as well.
Thank you, Andy. Sue, as I recall, the applicant is not available. He's out of our country.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
And is there anybody else that would wish to speak tonight? No? Okay, any other public comment? Then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any comments, questions of Andy, etc.?
Why didn't we do this last time around, Andy, when we did a couple blocks down?
I'm not sure. Last time I think it was a similar situation. I think in that case, there was someone with a time-sensitive concern that we wanted to make sure we act on as quickly as possible. There may be some other opportunities in the city after this, or at some point this, in the next several months, we might want to take a, deeper look at the zoning map and make sure that it's, all of the parcels in the city kind of are in a solid place and a place that makes sense in terms of zoning.
The other thing is at that time, didn't we have to do the amendment to make properties available to be in the neighborhood business district?
Yeah, that was part of it.
That was an addition to it, correct?
Yes, and typically we don't like to, significantly expand a fairly narrow ask into something that's significantly larger. In this case, we did it for these two properties next door, kind of thinking along the same lines as I think Marty is asking, which is, let's not do this over and over and over again. Let's do it once and get it right. So in this case, the ask was only for 815. We expanded it to include the parcels, both of the parcels to the east. And I think that hopefully that'll help us avoid, having the same request crop up again in the future.
And you will investigate as to if there's other areas like this somewhere? I think we asked that question a couple of years ago, if I recall, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, and it might not be with C1 and C3, but for example, out on the west end of town, there are some, the zoning districts are kind of unusual with the way that the C3 and the industrial districts line up. They don't always follow property lines and things like that. So there are a handful of areas out there where it would be worth at least, I think, exploring some possible changes. I'm not saying we have to make any changes, but I think we might want to explore some of them and sort of map in the future. I can't think of anything else in this immediate area, but there could be spots in other locations in town where we want to take a closer look at the zoning map just to make sure that we're, doing stuff that makes sense.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Then I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval of this request for the rezoning 815 West Main Street, 807 West Main Street, 803 West Main Street from C3 General Business to C1 Neighborhood Business. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And is there further discussion? Hearing none. Sue, voice vote, please.
Commissioner Cadwalder,
Yes.
Commissioner Chambers,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis,
Yes.
Commissioner Schraven. Yes. And Chair Barker.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Staff report. Andy, anything?
Nothing at this time, just sorry I can't be there tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next month in person.
Okay. Sue, anything?
I have nothing further.
No other staff here. Commissioners, Dave,
I'm good.
Marty,
I'm good.
Tony.
I always listen.
Good.
Did we discuss or summarize the joint meeting that we had with the several different townships?
No, and we should be getting minutes. Sue, will you check on that? We should
Sure.
be getting some minutes from Lowell Township. They had 2 people that are taking them, so
Okay,
that would be the proper way of doing it. And let's just introduce or put them right in the planning commission stuff for next
next month, I'll do
next
that.
month and
Yeah.
go from there. Yeah.
Also, what is the status on New Union Brewing Companies, the parking lot? I see they have a bulldozer.
Well, I haven't heard anything more than what's been in the reported. I mean, it's between the owner.
equipment down there.
Yeah, it's the owner of the property, as I understand it, that is generally holding things up.
Okay.
Not the owner of New Union. Is that correct, Marty? Is that,
Yeah,
am I
there's-
saying it right?
Yep, there's issues that are hopefully getting addressed. It's been long enough, and that's why Monday night at city council, we went out and we broke it down for all the different requests and meetings and everything. And Lowell's first look did a really good job on it, so
Mhm.
you can read it. They got it dead right perfect. So
We addressed it.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's been addressed and falls now back into their court whether they want to do something or.
What are the options? I mean, No
Zero.
There's options, but I would wait for the city attorney
Okay.
to voice in on that one.
Use railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Serve on the railroad track.
There's a lot of low.
Do the hand crank.
Lord. You good?
Amanda?
I actually have a couple things too. Is there any update on scooters, since we haven't heard from them? Since we've asked a few questions of them and they haven't come back.
they are still having problems with their access.
Okay, so that was kind of what's going on.
Yep. So I did reach out to her and she got back with me today and just said at this point, nothing further.
That's with the Department of Transportation?
No,
The access?
No, that's with D&D trucking.
Yeah.
They don't want an easement to.
Is that denial of use of their property though by the Department of Transportation if they can't get a driveway?
I don't know. I mean, that'd be something, that'd be a good MDOT question, I guess.
I mean, it just seems logical. If you own a property, you ought to be able to put a driveway there.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Well, the previous
Truly does.
property owners,
Too
how
close
did
to
they
each
get in there? I mean,
They had
they had the easement from, but now the
That's
trucking
when
company
the
doesn't.
Wellman chiropractic was in there.
wow, easement always travels with land, not with the owners.
You know,
And it might be a combination of the two with MDOT and, getting access for
Right.
D&D trucking.
Yeah.
And D&D didn't really want it there.
Yeah, they didn't want us to change the zoning.
Yeah. That horse is left blind.
Okay. My other question was, I don't know if anyone knows what's going on with the containers outside of the Tractor Supply, the big, like what they're there for.
Storage containers they
Yeah.
have there? Yeah.
That's just a curiosity
They're
question.
remodeling, I know.
Okay, so is that like their
Interior,
supplies,
I believe so,
probably
yes.
then for, I'm just wondering.
Andy, do you know anything about that?
I don't. I do know that we do allow for temporary, temporary structures and stuff if there's something like a remodeling going on. So if that's the case, that would be okay as long as they're temporary, but I haven't seen anything on that myself.
They have filed with the city for remodeling.
Yes.
Oh, well,
it does look like they're winding down, so.
yeah, okay.
That's nice.
Well, yeah, we'll let it go for another month at least, see where it goes from there. Fair enough?
Yeah, that's one, I was just kind of curious.
Good.
That's all I have.
I have absolutely nothing, so take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
I'll support that.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.